All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome to Zero Status. I am Chad Gilbert, and on today's episode, I'm going to talk about this shock, which is no longer on my street bob. So I'm gonna grab a drink, and we will talk about that. Don't roll away. Today's episode is brought to you by Coca-Cola. The original taste. Have a Coke and a smile. Coke is for everybody. I don't remember all their slogans. They had a song and everything for Coke. I know this is horrible for me, so is beer. Just trying to have fun while I'm here. I'm trying to cut back on beer. I probably should be cutting back on Coke. But it's also like not even noon on a Sunday, so having a Coke. All right, Coke. Send me some money. Anyway, go Vols. We won last night. We're still playing high school football teams. I mean, technically, NC State last week was a ranked team. Fake news, I guess. I hope we're this good. I hope this lasts throughout the rest of the season. And on that note, Daniel Herring, I do not apologize, but...
Wish that I was on a rocky top down in the Tennessee hills.
I'm just going to see how many times I can make Daniel Herring listen to Rocky Top in this episode. Teddy, I hope you're doing well. Horns down, but Texas won. You're welcome for one of the Mannings. We all know his uncle's the GOAT. Go Peyton.
Wish that I was on a rocky top down in the Tennessee hills.
So today I'm going to talk about this progressive shock that was on my Harley Davidson. So this is literally, this shock is a progressive shock from Showa, as the manufacturer for this shock for Harley Davidson. This is not a fancy shock. This is a basic shock absorber for your Harley. The new Softail is a single shock. You can adjust it here. There's a numbered section on here which you can turn based on the weight of the rider. Once you get to the setting, I think mine is like setting 1 or 2 for basically someone under 200 pounds. I'm about 175 pounds right now. So I've got it set on like 1.5, I think. The street bob sits pretty low. That's kind of the point of the street bob. One of the reasons I have a street bob and not a lowrider S is the street bob was quite a bit less expensive in the used market, and I didn't have another $2 to $3 grand to get the lowrider S, which is really what I wanted. I wanted the bigger tire, I wanted the bigger tank, I wanted the wider fender, I wanted the inverted front suspension, I wanted the dual front brakes, but I didn't have any extra money, and that was literally all I had at the time when I bought my street bob. So I'm also, like I've had this conversation 100 times with you guys, I am cheap. Really cheap because I'm broke. I'm blue collar, and upgrading a suspension, what I'd love to have an Olin shock on the back of my street bob right now with a reservoir so I can adjust how good and bad that feels. And I'd love to have the front suspension redone with Olin's as well, but I can't afford a $1,000 rear shock. So what I did do is I bought this here, which is a Lowrider ST tall shock. Now, it does say tall on the side of the shock on the description by the part number, which is apparently, I guess, a second variation of the Lowrider ST suspension. So, like I said, it's the tall version. So I don't know what the difference between the earlier one and the tall is now. I'm guessing the bike sits up a little bit taller. And I'm going to look up the overall ride height difference between my street bob and a Lowrider ST. The shock is about 1.5 inches difference, if my memory serves me. This is not quite 13, and I think the tall is a little over 13, like 13.1 or 2. If I've messed that up, I'll fix that down here. So what I did was I found this takeoff. Someone upgraded their shock on their Lowrider ST, and I bought this shock on for about $100. Basically, again, did some horse trading and ended up with the shock that looks like this again. It's relatively easy to replace the shock on these because It's just a couple nuts and bolts, making sure you've got the bike jacked up. I was able to borrow a jack from a friend of mine to at least raise the bike up so I could disconnect the rear shock, which then let the swing arm come down, blah, 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 blah. Got everything back together. New bike, new shock is installed. Here's a photo of the motorcycle as it currently sits. I probably shouldn't have worn black. You guys can't see me. I should have worn more Tennessee orange for you, Daniel.
Wish that I was on a rocky top down in the Tennessee hills.
Sorry, just as many times as I can play that for you. I think the bike went up about an inch. I didn't measure before and after. I got excited and I literally ripped this one off the bike and put the new one on. I was really excited about it. But it made a huge difference, in my opinion. I mean, it's not I didn't go from a stock shock to an Olin shock or any other of the brands that are out there on the market right now that are much better, Legends or whoever it was, which I would love to upgrade the suspension on my back. I wish I had $2,000 to throw at suspension. That would be amazing. I would really just prefer to buy the whole front end off a lowrider and slap it on the front of my bike. But again, looking at quite a few $1,000s. But for $100, I got the upgraded suspension from the ST, which for me was a big upgrade. The bike rides so much better. Because this is a lower shock and it's just progressive, you feel every bump in the road. It doesn't really absorb well. It's a smaller shock. It's like riding in a lowered car. You're gonna feel the bumps more. I prefer a lowered car, but I do like a bike that goes around a corner, and I wanted a little bit more road clearance. I was dragging my pegs, and now that I have the new pegs on the bike, I really want to drag those all over the concrete riding around town. So with the new suspension, the bike's up about an inch or so. I need to post some pictures up. So here's a picture before of what the bike looked like. I hope it's a good enough angle to give you an idea. And here's a picture of the bike with the suspension on, definitely raised up a little bit. But for me, this was a good $100 well spent. I put it on myself, didn't cost me any money. It took me about an hour to put on, and I was kind of piddling around in the garage with TV on in the background. Not too bad. I still have most of the tools to work on a Harley, but it was a really, really solid upgrade for anyone looking to do a mild upgrade without spending a ton of money. All I did was get on one of the ST Facebook pages for buying and selling. I made a post and just said, hey, I'm looking for a stock, tall OEM shock off an ST that someone's removed and they're not using anymore. I had a dozen messages about, I've got one. I basically just found whoever had the closest one for the least amount of money. The guy shipped it. It got here next day. I installed it. It's adjustable. It's hydraulic. It does have a little knob on it you can set. I've got mine, again, set at about 1.5, about 170 pound, 180 pound rider. If I go on a trip, I would probably turn it down to spot number 2 for about 200 pounds, probably another 20 pounds in crap in my bags and an overnight bag if I really travel on it. But it absorbs the road so much better. Bumps that I used to really be aware of and avoid, I still avoid, but the bike absorbs them. The shock absorbs them, and it does its job so much better than the previous shock, this one that I had on the bike, which I don't know what I'm going to do with now other than take up space in my garage. If you guys are looking for a really solid upgrade, relatively inexpensive upgrade for your Street Bob, this is M8 Street Bob Softail and newer, so mine's a 21, so this will fit a 21. This is a great option for you. Again, not expensive. Is it going to be as good as the Legends and the Olins and some of these other companies out there? No. But for $100, it is a huge noticeable difference on how the bike rides and handles. Do I want to do my front forks next? 100%. Do I got to figure out how to afford that? 100%. But for $100, this was money well spent on my bike to raise the tail up a little bit, give me a little bit more ground clearance, which gives me a little bit more lean angle in the corners, especially for around town, making U-turns, making hard right turns in neighborhoods. It just made a huge difference. And on the highway, it's so much better. It's so much softer. It absorbs all of the bumps in the road. It's night and day. So I can't recommend this more for guys that are just looking for a good budget-friendly suspension upgrade without breaking the bank. This is 100% a great option for you. Hope you guys are having a great weekend. Please subscribe to my channel. I've got a ton of people that are watching these videos, but no one is subscribed, or most of them are not subscribed. It's like 98%. Please hit the subscribe button, hit the bell button so you get a notification anytime I upload new content. And until the next episode, we'll see you here again on Zero Status. Simba. Sorry, that was stuff from The Lion King. Okay, thanks so much for watching. Have a good one. Go Vols. Hey, Daniel.
Wish that I was on a rocky top down in the Tennessee hills.
Good old Rocky Top. Woo! You're welcome, Daniel. Have a good day, buddy. These are all my pictures for like